the 9th of July 1991, 18-year-old Julie Dart had spent the evening with her boyfriend and two of his family members. He had injured his leg and she was just making sure he was okay. Julie was described by her mother as a nice, happy, bubbly girl who was honest, trusting, fun and loving. She loved going out drinking with her friends, dancing and singing at karaoke nights. Her mum said that she could not sing but certainly had fun trying. The month before this case, Julie had been changing her makeup, she'd been colouring her hair to look different, and her mum said she didn't like it, so in the end Julie dyed her hair back to its original colour. There were no problems in her life that her family knew about, and Julie seemed her normal self. That evening at 7:45, whilst at her boyfriend's house, she left, stating that she was going to work. Julie had told her family and boyfriend that she had a job at the LGI in Leeds. That's the Leeds General Infirmary. But some people that knew her had seen her weeks before regularly standing around on the streets of Chapeltown, looking like she might be waiting for punters.
I was driving down Spencer Place, just as I came to the junction of Leopold Street. The girl who used to go to school with us, Julie Dart, standing with a mixed race girl. Julie, I presume, recognised me because she turned away as if embarrassed.
When she left her boyfriend's house, she was wearing a black skirt and a mauve and black jacket.
Where did she change her clothes before arriving here in Spencer Place?
At 9 p.m, she rang her boyfriend. She told him that she would probably not finish until late and would stay over at her mother's house. He could hear music in the background and thought she might have been in a pub.
Yes, me.
Hi.
Listen, I'm just ringing to let you know I'm at work, and I'm going to stay at my mum's tonight because I'm working late. Probably won't be finished till 11:30.
Yeah, that's all right. I'll see you tomorrow then.
Yeah, see you tomorrow. I love you.
Yeah, me too. Bye.
But what happened next was every girl's worst nightmare, as a man was driving around the local red light area scouting for his next victim. And that was when he saw Julie Dart stood on the side of the road in Chapeltown. He pulled up alongside her, pretending to be interested in what she had on offer. Julie had no concerns. She got into his vehicle with no idea of what was going to happen next, and he picked Julie Dart up and they drove away. Whilst he had her in the back of his car, she was blindfolded and driven to this man's warehouse, where she was placed in a coffin-like box and chained to the floor. When Julie did not arrive home, her family and boyfriend became concerned. Meanwhile, in the warehouse, Julie had managed to free herself from the box in an attempt to escape. She had no idea what this man was capable of and no idea what was going to happen next. But after getting out of the box, she was unable to leave the room. She was locked in. The man had also, unknowingly, wired an alarm to the box. So as soon as she'd freed herself, he returned to chain her back up, and this time to a roof beam. The following day, the man forced Julie to write a letter to her boyfriend, demanding a ransom of £140,000, or the hostage would never be seen again. He also made her write other notes. After the notes were written, the man murdered Julie Dart with a hammer.
Then, 3 days later, the letter seemed to be in Julie's hand and said she'd been abducted. Help me, please. I've been kidnapped and I'm being held as a personal security until next Monday night. Please go and tell my mum straight away. Love you so much, Dominic. Mum, phone the police straight away and help me.
I've not eaten anything, but I have been offered food. I'm feeling a bit sick, but I'm drinking 2 cups of tea a day. Mum, Dominic, help me. Dominic, my mum will be in at 5 tonight. Or phone. Yes, phone her, please. Julie.
Incident room.
The same day, the police received a disconcerting letter too.
Although that letter was typed, it made no direct reference to Julie, but stated that a young woman had been kidnapped from the Chapeltown area. The letter demanded £140,000 from the police. It also included a threat to firebomb a large city centre store if the instructions in the letter were not complied with.
The letter, it didn't make sense. Oh, would kidnap Julie and who'd want her for ransom. Because I thought I'd have got a letter saying I want so many thousands of pounds. It just didn't make sense.
9 days later, he dumped her body in a field in eastern Lincolnshire. Since it was never likely that Julie's ransom would ever be paid, as her family did not have that sort of money, it was suggested that her killer had always intended to kill her.
We set up an incident room. Obviously, we took the letters very seriously, looked into Julie's movements to establish when she was last seen. Then 8 days later, our inquiries took us to Lincolnshire.
It's Friday the 19th of July, 10 days since Julie disappeared. This is 90 miles away from Leeds on the B6403 outside Easton, near Grantham.
I was travelling to work on the coach, early turn, 6 o'clock start, and I noticed this red car coming out of the track to my right, and it appeared that he didn't know which way to turn. And then as the coach got very near to him, he decided to reverse back into the slipway.
2 hours later, a local farmer visited his fields.
We were about to move some cattle from the dairy farm down to some pastures, and we found what was thought to be a package of litter. It was a sheet bound up with a bluey-green rope, which later on proved to be a body.
In the days and weeks that followed, Leeds police received 5 further letters. Killer was tantalising the detectives, threatening to take a further hostage and demanding money. He set up rendezvous, but he never kept to his arrangements.
Paul Britton, a clinical psychologist who advised the detectives, argued that he abducted a sex worker because it would be relatively easy and was a good practice. It would also not create too much of a stir. By killing Julie Dart and leaving her body where it would be easily found, they said that this would help to convince the police that he was regarded as serious and intimidate his next victim's parents and relatives into paying up. But the man continued to demand ransoms for several days after her death, initially hidden in a wheelie bin, but after the smell of decomposition came too difficult to conceal, that is when he drove her to the field and dumped her body. He continued to send messages to police stating prostitutes were easy to pick up. He also sent messages stating that he intentionally caused a train crash unless this ransom was paid. He also attempted to blackmail supermarkets by threatening to poison food.
Bob Taylor, whoever your man is, he travels a fair bit because the 6 letters that you had were posted all around the country, all around central and northern England, as you see from the map here. One of those letters on the envelope, perhaps he gave you a clue he hadn't intended to give.
That's right. On the second letter posted in Leeds, there was an indentation on the envelope. It was posted on the 20th or the 21st of July. The indentation reads, Mavis, will not be in on Tuesday, Phil. Someone may recognise the handwriting or may know of a Mavis and a Phil.
This device here is part of an elaborate plot that he had to extort money, and he's put this together himself. But the most interesting thing about it perhaps is that the container itself, which is made from an aquarium or goldfish food container.
That's right, it's an aquarium brand fish food container.
Maybe he's got access to an aquarium. He's obviously got some electrical experience. He wired this up himself. He's got some technical knowledge.
He has got some technical knowledge, yes.
So what can you tell us about him for anybody who's got suspicions or any thoughts which is helping this to jigsaw together?
He appears to have a dislike for the police. He's written to the Leeds City Police, and as they ceased to exist as such in 1974, that may suggest he's an older person. He has low literal skills from the letters, the spelling and grammar. It would appear that he works alone. He has probably not killed before, not a senior position if he is in employment at the moment. His core aim would probably not be the murder of Julie Dart, but may well be the obtaining of the £140,000 from the police.
Some months later, on the 22nd of January 1992, the man struck again, kidnapping another woman. Using a false name, he arranged to meet Stephanie Slater, an estate agent with a local branch of the company, Shipways. He had said he wanted to view a property in Turnberry Road, Great Bar in Birmingham. At the property, he attacked the lady, tied her up, and then took her to his workshop. Again, he demanded a ransom for this from the manager of the estate agency. This crime was also featured on the BBC reconstruction of Crime Watch. Although they did not specify at the time that they felt these two cases were linked, secretly they were questioning whether this was the same man. Given his previous crime, police had expected that the kidnapper would kill her. They hoped to stop him by following him after he picked up the ransom. But he had already anticipated this and devised an elaborate scheme to successfully give them the slip.
In 2 telephone calls from the kidnapper to Shipway's estate agents, and it appears he is prepared to negotiate. We can therefore only presume that Stephanie, at this time, is alive and well. Her employers, Shipways, are working with us 100% and have agreed to put up the ransom money. The press have been informed and have agreed not to publish anything until Stephanie is found safe and alive. It is vital that we do not alert the kidnapper that we are involved. I must re-emphasize to you that Stephanie's life may depend on this.
The kidnapper had warned there'd be instructions in the post. To give themselves precious extra hours, detectives got rare consent to intercept the mail for Shipways.
Looks like it, yeah. Yeah, that's it.
This is Stephanie Slater. The time is 11:45. I can assure you I am okay and unharmed. Providing these instructions are carried out, I will be released on Friday the 31st of January. Kevin Watts must be the person to act as courier and use his car. The money must not be marked in any way whatsoever or contain any device whatsoever.
Is that your daughter's voice?
Oh, yes.
So I have.
You go to Glossop Station.
Glossop, west of Manchester.
The telephone box inside the entrance hall.
When I turned down the bridle path, the first thing I saw was a Shipway sign, which had been made up. It was a little wooden stake in the ground. I thought, he's waiting for me at the end of this track.
Put money and bag on tray. If buzzer does not sound, leave money there. Remove car in front of car and go. Money will not be collected until you have left.
At that time, I was just going along with exactly what he was saying. Of my own mind, he wasn't. The feelings I had were undescribable. I understand afterwards there was actually a message on the track, which I didn't pick up. Purely and simply is that I was in that much of a panic. I just wanted to get out of there.
Leave it, I'll get it.
Is this?
It's Stephanie.
Stephanie, Warren!
Oh, Barrett! Oh, Barrett! Auntie, she's back!
Come on, in.
Oh, Barrett, please remember.
The lady that worked at the estate agent said that for 8 days she was held handcuffed, with her legs bound, blindfolded and gagged in a coffin inside a wheelie bin laid horizontally. She said that if she moved, she would be electrocuted. When she was allowed out of the coffin for food, she chatted about herself to the man to humanise herself and increase her chances of survival. Within 12 hours of her release, she was made to face a press conference, even though she was still drugged and highly distressed. But police later acknowledged that this was an error of judgment.
This is the face as recalled by Stephanie, of course. Here it is again. Here it is as remembered by one of her colleagues. He's white, he's 40 to 50 years old, we think, medium-ish height, 5'7" to 5'8", and of medium build, neither fat nor thin. This is the first conversation that he had with an estate agent, Kevin Watts.
I want to speak to Kevin Watts, quickly, please.
Who's calling?
Don't mind.
Hold on.
Hello.
Kevin Watts?
Speaking.
Have you got the money?
Who's this, please?
Never mind. Have you got the money? For tomorrow?
For tomorrow?
Yeah. Have you got it?
I'm getting it, yeah.
3 o'clock. You'll get a message at 3 o'clock. Tell her to give you a password. If you tell me a word, I'll get her to repeat it to say that she's all right.
Yes. Could I have a mother and father's Christian names, please?
A mother and father's Christian name. Okay, 3 o'clock tomorrow.
The following day, he rang again.
Go to Glossop Station.
Could you spell that, please?
Glossop, west of Manchester. There's a telephone box inside the entrance hall, only one. And you'll get a further message at 7 o'clock. If anything goes wrong and you don't make it there, ring your office up.
Do you recognise the voice? Put it together with other clues. We also know a bit about his car. He drove an old-type Metro, probably 10 to 12 years old, described as vermilion or orange-red, with black hubcaps.
In 1995, a book about the ordeal, Beyond Fear, My Will to Survive, the lady wrote about the man that had raped her on the first night of her imprisonment. Out of the $175,000 ransom that was paid for the release of her, police located $150,000 buried in a field by using ground-penetrating radar. The remains of the further $25,000 was never recovered. Following her release, she felt unable to return to work as an estate agent and moved to the Isle of Wight in 1993. She subsequently worked with police forces to advise them on how to deal with kidnap survivors. She died on the 31st of August 2017, aged 50, from cancer. The man, Michael Sams, had been born and raised in Keighley, West Riding of Yorkshire. He joined the Merchant Navy at the age of 20, and after 3 years, he returned to Keighley and worked as a lift engineer, graduating to become a central heating engineer, later establishing his own company. However, this man turned to crime and was first imprisoned in 1978 for stealing a car and making false insurance claims. While in prison, he was diagnosed with cancer that led to an amputation of one of his legs, and after his release, he was forced to sell his ailing business and gained a job for Black & Decker. He later started a business in the 80s selling power tools. He was married 3 times. He had 3 sons by his first wife, but the marriage broke down shortly before he was sent to prison. His second marriage was ended by divorce, and at the time of his arrest for the kidnappings, he lived in Sutton-on-Trent, Nottinghamshire, with his 3rd wife. On the BBC television programme Crime Watch, the police made a public tape of the recording of the kidnapper's voice.
At 3 o'clock.
A message at 3 o'clock tomorrow.
Yeah, and do you want her to give you a password? If you tell me a word, I'll get her to repeat it to say that she's all right.
Which was recognised by his first wife.
I was convinced it couldn't be him, but decided to video the programme so that when I came home on Thursday evening, I could listen to the voice and put it out of my mind completely.
You're calling?
Don't mind.
And then he said, "Never mind." Even when I think about it, I go cold. I just went hysterical. I knew immediately it was his voice.
He was arrested and forensic evidence was gathered of his responsibility for Julie Dart's murder. At his trial in Nottingham Crown Court in 1993, he admitted to the kidnappings of Miss Slater, but denied the kidnap and murder of Julie Dart. On the 8th of July that year, the jury found him guilty of murdering Julie Dart, and he was sentenced to life imprisonment for the murder and the abduction of Miss Slater. He was also found guilty of attempting to blackmail the police and British Rail. He was sentenced to 10 years for each of the blackmail attempts. And Mr. Sams confessed to Julie Dart's murder whilst in prison 3 days after he was found guilty. He had asked the senior investigating Detective Chief Superintendent Bob Taylor to visit him whilst in prison, and during this visit he confessed to Julie Dart's murder and revealed the date upon which he had carried it out. His confession was covertly recorded and not released for 30 years. The recording was released in the Discovery Plus documentary, Michael Sams, Kidnapper Killer, which was aired on the 30th of July 2022. Mr. Sams told officers he had made the confession for the sake of Julie's grieving mother. Mr. Sams continued to offend after he was in prison, attacking a female probation officer with a metal spike in 1995 at Wakefield Prison. At his trial in February 1997, at the Durham Crown Court, he received an additional 8 years of his term for this crime. Mr. Sams was awarded $5,000 damages when the prison service lost his artificial leg during a transfer. The award caused considerable public outrage. He also brought a civil case because he believed that his prison bed was too hard. A further complaint was that he was unfairly held in solitary confinement. Mr. Sams remains in prison. No recommendation for minimum term was reported at his trial. He is among the oldest and longest serving life sentence prisoner in England and Wales. His latest parole denial was in April 2023.